Hey there, Rick Sage, recording at the Rimrock Studios in Bishop, California. Welcome to Season 2 of the Outdoor Biz Podcast, where I speak with retailers, brand managers, athletes, executives, and others in the outdoor biz and share their stories, tips, advice, productivity tricks, and ideas you can use to take your career or business to the next level. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. I've used Audible for many years now. I'm on the road a lot, and Audible allows me to enjoy the great books I discover or are recommended by friends. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/theoutdoorbizpodcast. There are over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Start your 30-day free trial with Audible today. I'm excited to have Paul Easto, the co-founder and managing director of Wilderness Scotland, on the show today. These guys have an overwhelming enthusiasm and passion for sharing some of Scotland's finest undiscovered regions through adventure. Paul and his team have provided all. From walking and hiking to biking and kayaking, they'll have an adventure for you. Paul tells us all about it and a wild bicycle adventure where the wind was tossing bicycles around like paper cups. Enjoy. Welcome to the show, Paul. Good to chat with you.
Great, Rick. Yeah, good to see you today.
Yeah, so it's, you said about 4 o'clock over there in Scotland. You've been enjoying a bit of skiing today. That's awesome.
Yeah, we're lucky. Where our office is based, we're just about 10 minutes drive from the ski hill, so we had albeit extended lunch hour, I think it's fair to say.
Cool, good. So let's talk about how you got into adventure travel and leading all the adventures you do. Were you adventurous as a kid?
Well, I mean, I guess like most kids, we spent a bit of time out camping and hiking with the school, but not really. I mean, I grew up until I was a teenager in the southeast of England, so not particularly near the mountains. And It was really when I went to university up in Scotland that started to really develop a love for the hills and the wild places that we have here. Great.
What was your what was your activity of choice then?
Well, I think I was probably one of the early adopters of mountain biking before mountain biking was really had any bikes that were designed for mountain biking. We'd go out and ride on really heavy bikes that were clearly not designed for the road, but they weren't really designed for off the road either. But we'd have a blast anyway. And it was just that I found it's a great way to get out into the countryside and explore and perhaps travel a little bit further than you would do on foot. Right. That sounds fun. And when did you take up skiing? Actually a really late start, almost ashamed to admit, but, my parents didn't ski and I didn't get a chance to ski when I was younger. So I actually learned to ski in my mid-20s, but since then I've just been obsessed. So
nice,
I've invested a lot over the last 15 years or so.
Have you been to the U.S. skiing?
I've only ever skied on the East Coast in Stowe, and that was really similar to Scotland conditions. I mean, they basically have a saying in Scotland here that if you can ski in Scotland, you can ski anywhere. And it turns out that's exactly the same saying. If you can ski on the East Coast of the US, you can ski anywhere. So I think we're twinned in the ski states.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. And what was your first adventure travel or outdoor related job?
Yeah, so I think, one of the things that really inspired me to do what I do now is I had the chance when I was in my mid-20s, actually, it was just after I got married, to go and work for a season in Patagonia. And this was with a youth development charity called Rally International that worked with local destinations and communities in doing a range of environmental, social and adventure projects. And I'd already done quite a lot of volunteering in the outdoor education space during a regular job that I had. My first sort of job was working as a surveyor. So I would do this on weekends and holidays and things, working the sort of youth development in the outdoors. So this was kind of an extension of that. And I had the amazing privilege of working in a really remote part of Patagonia on an environmental research project. And that just gave me a lot of inspiration to switch careers really from what I was working in to something completely different, which was adventure travel.
Right. And tell us, for folks that don't know about Wilderness Scotland, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Wilderness Scotland, we are a tour operator that specialise in active and nature-based travel. So we offer a range of adventure experiences across the Highlands and Islands, but also in the north of England. We have a sister company called Wilderness Island as well, and we're about exploring wild places through human power. So whether that's on foot, on a hiking trip, on a mountain bike trip, sea kayaking, canoeing, Road cycling as well is a real sort of growth area over the last few years. And, we're just sharing our passion for the wild places where we live. And, it's just great to see people coming from around the world and enjoying that too.
Yeah. And where do most of your clients come from?
It's a real mix, actually. I mean, as Scotland's got more of a profile now internationally, I think people are starting to understand that you can do these things in Scotland. We started off with mostly a market that was the UK, but our audience has grown, and we get a lot of people coming from North America, particularly the US and Canada, people from Australasia, other parts of Europe. And I think particularly for the North American visitor, there's everyone likes to think they got a little bit of a kind of strong connection or relationship, and many people of course do with Scotland and Ireland, and that's a great thing for us to promote as part of any adventure. Yeah.
And how did you get the inspiration? Just from your having so much fun doing it as a young guy?
I mean, it was really that whole Patagonia experience changed my life. We worked in a very remote place, and I just kind of felt this very real power of wild places firsthand, and we camped for nearly 3 months.
Oh wow!
Even when you get back from that experience and you sit at a table and a chair, you think, wow, everything takes on a completely different meaning. And what we realized, I started it with an old university friend, was that in Scotland, while there are a number of like walking outfitters and kayaking outfitters, there wasn't really one single company that was promoting adventure travel. So, this is the cultural and natural heritage dimensions as well as the activity itself.
And so what has been your most epic adventure? Was it that Patagonia trip?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of epic adventures in our time, and some of them I probably don't want to share with the audience. But
have you had any with clients?
Yeah. No, well,
not
yes.
horribly bad.
But things that have turned out well. But I mean, I share this experience because I do. I love mountain biking, and there's one private group. We have a sort of this iconic bike journey, which is a coast-to-coast journey across Scotland. It takes 7 days, and you go from the North Sea on the east coast to the Atlantic Ocean on the west, and you ride through all the mountain ranges of Scotland along the way. So it's a real epic adventure. And when you get to the other end, there's a massive sense of achievement.
Yeah.
So we had a group of guys that signed up for a 50th birthday celebration, and some of them were quite keen mountain bikers, and others were less keen, but they were all united by this common cause to ride across Scotland, as a group of buddies to celebrate the 50th birthday. And the first sort of day went fine. It was pretty good, and there were the usual complaints. Paul, when does it stop hurting? I was like, well, when we get to the end,
Yeah.
But on the second day, there was a storm forecast, and I did explain it all to them that we probably have to modify the route. We couldn't really go through the high mountains; we have to go around. And sure enough, this storm came in. There was a lot of heavy rain, and consequently, the route changed because of like flooding and not being able to cross rivers. So we took a lower level route, and it was going pretty well. But we were only at that point probably about less than 5 miles from the finish.
Wow.
And we ended up in this quite remote valley where the wind and I'd calculated the wind would be behind us, so it would just push us along this valley, and we'd end up at the village we were staying. But when we got into this valley, it was great. Sure enough, this wind was just like, pushing us along, like almost being fired out of a cannon,
Nice.
as we flew up the glen. But then we passed this area of like these cliffs, and there were these massive downdrafts, and we got hit with this huge squall that came through. It knocked, I mean, this sounds crazy describing it now, stuck in a warm office, but it knocked us all off our bikes.
Wow.
And I looked around behind us, amazingly to see a bike airborne. The wind was that strong that this bike was sort of going end over end towards the river. I'm thinking, this bike goes in the river.
We're next.
And it was extraordinary. A lot of people had, these like plastic mud guards that were on the bike. These were being ripped off by the wind.
Jeez.
It was almost like being in a tornado. I guess that's probably the closest thing. I've never experienced anything like that since. And even before that, that was extraordinary. And that happened. It had 2 gusts like that over the course of about the next 30 minutes, where people were braced fully on the ground, holding on to their bikes.
Jeez.
And it was extraordinary. And we got to the end, and they sat in the restaurant that night in the bar, and telling these stories where everyone And then the power goes off because the storm's so bad, and they're cooking dinner by candlelight. So this sort of adds to the drama of the evening. And I think the nicest part of this whole kind of epic adventure was when we got to the very end and they made it all the way across Scotland. They celebrating. They met some other cyclists in the hotel we were staying in who were doing a leisure cycle trip around the west coast of Scotland. And they said, "Oh, where have you guys cycled from?" They said, "Oh, we've cycled across Scotland. It's been an incredible adventure." And they said, "Oh, when did you start?" They said, "Oh, we started on Saturday." And they said, "Well, were you cycling on Sunday?" We're like, "Oh yeah, we're cycling." Oh my, what? They closed the whole country down. Trains were cancelled, bridges were closed. you guys are cycling through the mountains, but they felt like heroes.
Exactly, yeah.
Rightly so. It was an incredible adventure.
That's awesome.
That one definitely stands out for me, and I think it'll live long in the memory of those people that were there.
Yeah, they'll have that for their 50th anniversary celebration forever. That's awesome. That's great. Wow. So it must have been almost tornado-like. It wasn't a tornado though.
No, I think it's just this huge sort of downdraft. You might get off a cliff, just a lot of turbulence in there. But yeah, I mean, I've never obviously been in a tornado. But I imagine a similar kind of effect. It was just extraordinary. Yeah,
man,
but I mean, they're coming back. They're coming back this year for another trip to
all right. Good.
The outer islands. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, right.
Get slightly more kind of benign weather.
Check the news in addition to the weather before you go. Right. So where are you headed next?
So next trip, I've actually just back. We've been over in Ireland there. So we started working in Ireland a few years ago. So just sort of building up the number of trips that we have over there. So that's been really exciting. Mm-hmm. Lots of similarities between Scotland and Ireland, but quite a lot of differences too. Real sort of strong cultural identity there. And I think what I love so much about Ireland is just the sort of people engagement, which we know travelers from around the world really enjoy, whether it's, sharing a conversation with a local farmer or having a pint of Guinness in the pub and listening to some of the music. Those sort of experiences seem to happen almost every hour in Ireland, a little bit harder to come by in Scotland. So that's where I've been. And then I just on the pretty much around here, just taking advantage of some of the school holidays that are coming up and getting out with the kids and doing a bit of skiing, I think.
Nice, cool. And have you guys introduced any new trips, or what are you most excited about for this year, 2018?
Yeah, so 2018, it's looking pretty good. We really excited. I think, as I say, the growth that we've had in road cycling has been fantastic. And what's so nice about that is that there's people from all different backgrounds, different ages, united by a passion of exploring country by bike. So we've got some new bike itineraries. The islands are very popular in Scotland that we've got, and this cycle and yoga escape that we have in Ireland, we ran that for the first time just at the end of last year, and everyone loved that too. So we're really excited about the new bike trips we have this year. That's cool. I didn't realize there was so much road cycling over there. That's great. Yeah, it's sort of surprising, really. I mean, you as you'd expect. I mean, we both Scotland and Ireland, they're maritime climates, so the weather can be varied. So as long as you come prepared for that, then we have some of the most quiet roads I think you'll find anywhere in Western Europe, which is a real advantage. Very little traffic, and great landscapes, great wildlife, and it's all very compact. So there's a lot. You can see a lot of the country by bike in a short space of time, say in a week-long holiday. That's awesome. And what other outdoor activities do you participate in? So obviously skiing. So probably given the choice would be sort of biking during the summer and skiing during the winter. But I really love sea kayaking. I don't do enough of it, but a lot of the people in the team here are really big paddlers, and we're blessed with an extraordinary 10,000 kilometers or so coastline in Scotland for a tiny country. It's just a crazy coastline, a huge number of islands. So there's always somewhere sheltered to paddle. That's nice. I was going to ask about that. You must get some pretty crazy weather while you're paddling too sometimes. You do, but as I say, as long as you're smart, there's always somewhere you can go where you can get some sheltered water, beautifully, crystal clear water, amazing kind of marine life, fantastic, seabirds you'll see, and you can always usually find, if you're prepared to camp, a lovely wild camp spot on a remote beach or a headland. I think those have given me some of the most satisfying sort of wilderness experiences, really. That combination of sort of sea and mountains that we have in the west of Scotland. That sounds great, yeah. And do you have any suggestions or advice for folks wanting to get into the adventure travel biz or grow their career or start a business? Yeah, I mean, I guess we asked that question, a few times over the years. I mean, we're just entering like season 17, so we've been doing this for thank you. It seems like it's been an incredible journey. It doesn't seem like that period of time at all. And I think probably the thing that I would emphasize is that within adventure travel, there's a whole range of careers that you can pursue. So most people usually associate with being a guide, or an instructor.
Yeah.
What I would say is that, we've got people that are working, in trip operations, and they're the sort of engineers that really put everything together. We've got people working on the sales side, marketing, there's finance roles, so
yep.
Whatever your education might be, or your background or your experience, you probably will find a role within adventure travel. And you know what? It's an amazing industry to work in. I've never met such a fantastic or more inspiring group of individuals, whether that's within our own company or people that we meet, people we work with, people who travel. It's just a very uplifting, industry to be part of.
Yeah. And how many folks do you have on your team?
So we've got just around about 30 or so in the office.
Wow, really?
Yeah. So, we've grown, just from a couple of us starting off. And then the guiding team, so most of our trips, are fully guided. We've got between, Scotland and Ireland, we've got about a team of about sort of 50 guides that are out there delivering,
that's huge.
The trips that we do each year. And, so together we come together, a couple of times a year, and it's, there's a lot of energy, pre-season and post-season.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're all from a whole range of amazing backgrounds. There's probably the message would be there isn't one defined route into adventure travel. You could have had a career before or had many careers, and there's always a home in adventure travel.
Yeah, that's one of the common themes, I think, in adventure travel and outdoor. We all have kind of hacked our way in some way because we were passionate about the activity and just being outside. So that's good advice, yeah. And do you have any daily routines you use to keep your sanity, your health? You meditate, exercise, walk the dog?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, it's so important to get out there. I just love being out there in the outdoors. So where we are in Aviemore in the Highlands here, we're lucky we've got sort of the forest and the mountains pretty much on our doorstep. So if it's just like a 30-minute run at lunchtime, there's a few people keen in the office here. And one of our favorite activities in the summer, which everyone seems to be going crazy for right now, is open water swimming. So we're blessed with some fantastic lakes just in this area.
That's cold though, no?
Yeah, it is cold. And a special sort of shout out to Alice in our team here, who incredible swimmer. Has swum the English Channel twice.
Wow.
But she swims year round without a wetsuit in Scotland, which I have to say is absolutely crazy, but very inspiring as well. Because whenever I go out in the summer with a wetsuit, because temperature like probably looking at about 50 degrees maybe, most of the water, and it does go up to like 60 plus if we get a warm spell of weather, which does happen quite often in the summer. But I'm often comfortable in my wetsuit, but Alice is there, swimming costume the whole time, and would stay in longer than I will. So yeah, it's incredible to see and be part of. But you feel almost reborn when you've gone for a lunchtime swim. It's amazing.
Yeah, well, good on you, Alice. That's incredible. What are some of your favorite books, or do you guys give books as gifts very often?
We do some nice work with a fantastic photographer called Colin Pryor. He specializes as a landscape photographer, and he's very interesting background. I recommend looking him up. And he does a lot of landscape photography in Scotland particularly. So he's done it all over the world. He's done a real sort of nice job in the Karakoram as well quite recently. Fascinating character. And Colin, what I like so much about it, he really gets out there. So he'll hike up in the middle of the night to get to a mountain peak when he knows the angle of the sun in the morning is going to be exactly what he needs for the shot. Yeah. So we often share those books with our guests over the year. And probably, my favorite sort of book that marries adventure with business is Yvonne Chouinard's book, Let My People Go Surfing. I'm sure some of you people will be familiar with that. But I just love that because I think all of us in adventure travel are kind of what Yvonne describes as reluctant business people. Yeah.
Right.
We've just found ourselves, in these businesses, but first and foremost, we're passionate about what we do and what we share. And I think there's so many great, stories and takeaways from that book. So that would be my one recommendation for any aspiring adventure traveler who wants to get into this industry.
That's a good one. We'll link to all those. Yeah, I've seen some of Colin Pryor's work. It's beautiful. Yeah, he does good stuff. And what's your favorite piece of outdoor gear under $100?
Wow, that's a good question. I love gear.
We all do.
There's things that have lasted a long time, but probably currently the thing that really I love, actually, because I'm very particular around this in the morning, is as a good flask. A flask that you can put in your car and, you can maybe drink, or you can put it in your backpack and it'll still be there and it won't leak. Yep. So I found these hydro flasks that of all different colors that you get from them, and I don't think they retail about $25-$30, and that has just been a brilliant bit of kit. It doesn't leak at all.
Yep.
I've had so many flasks where they've been upside down, and you go in the bottom of your bag, and your down jacket's covered in coffee, and it's not a great start to the day. So that's probably my favorite right now. It's a good bit of kit.
Good one. Yep, I have one of those as well. Those are great. Anything you want to ask or say to our audience before we wrap up?
No, I think if you're interested in getting into adventure travel in a professional sense, we go for it. There's lots of great resources out there. We're a member of the Adventure Travel Trade Association, and there's a lot of fantastic information there that you can understand more about the industry and jobs that are posted there quite regularly by their members.
Yep.
So that's a good starting place. But and if you're starting a business, be persistent and follow your passion and expect that it will take time. It certainly I think probably took us almost about 10 years to get to a point where we actually really knew what we were doing. And I know that sounds like a long time, but each day you're learning.
It flies by, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And I can't believe we're nearly coming up for 2 decades. That's extraordinary. And it's hard to know where that time's gone. And for those that might be thinking about visiting, Scotland or Ireland, make 2018 the year. It's there's a lot of exciting stuff going on right now, and I hear the weather's going to be great this year.
Oh, awesome! Sounds good. I'd like to come over there. And how can people get a hold of you if they want to ask questions or email?
Yeah, so we're online, obviously. Wilderness Scotland and wildernessisland.com, and you can check us out on Instagram, Wilderness Scotland, and Team Wilderness on Twitter as well.
Great. Well, we'll link to all that. Well, great. Thanks. It's been great to chat with you, Paul.
Absolute pleasure. No, great to be speaking to you today.
Yeah, have a good day.
You too.
All right, bye. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Paul Easto. You can catch up with him and see all the great adventures they offer at wildernessscotland.com and wildernessireland.com. You can find him on Instagram at Wilderness Scotland and Team Wilderness on Twitter. You'll find links to everything we discussed in the show notes at theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/episode/079. This episode received support from Steve and Nona Barker, Veronica and Jason Cox, and Scott Osterman and the Cairn Company. I had Scott on the show on episode 44, Veronica Cox on episode 026, and Steve Barker on episode 050. Thank you, guys. Be sure to hit iTunes and subscribe today, and thanks for listening. Today's podcast is brought to you by InMotion Hosting. I've used InMotion Hosting to host my websites for years. Rick Say's Photos blog, Stillwater's Consulting, and the Outdoor Biz podcast are all hosted with InMotion Hosting. If your New Year's resolution is to publish a blog, produce a podcast, or simply secure a domain name, go to theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/InMotion and sign up with them today. They make it simple and quick to get a new site up and running with easy installation tools. That's theoutdoorbizpodcast.com/InMotion. Get going today. If you want more of the Outdoor Biz podcast, you can subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcast. Be sure and go to theoutdoorbizpodcast.com where you'll find all the episodes, show notes, and much, much more. Thanks for listening, and until next time, be sure and make time to get outside.